Today I'm doing a UFC 327 picks and predictions video, and I know it's been a while since I've done one, but that's just simply because I didn't really have anything to say for the past couple cards. They obviously been trash, as you guys have seen. I don't need to tell you that. But yeah, it's gonna be a longer video, probably close to over 20 minutes. And this time I have some notes prepared. It's not gonna focus. Look at this. I got so much written down, actually. And that's because last predictions video I made about 3 months ago, which was on the Volk versus Lopez 2 card, sometimes when I turn the camera on, sometimes I kind of just freeze up and forget my thoughts, you know, like leading up to a video. I'll have it all in my head up here. So that's why I have these notes prepared, so that hopefully doesn't happen again. I honestly don't think I have too much to say. I'm not going to be covering Nate Landwehr versus Cub Swanson. Not going to be covering Tatiana Suarez versus Lupe Godinez, or Chris Padilla versus Markel Medros. Simply don't have enough to talk about that. But there's lots of picks and predictions video out there you could go watch if you want to get some insight on those 3 fights. This is going to be an unedited video, ideally. I'm not even going to cut me drinking out that water. So, starting from the bottom of the card up, we got Charles Radtke versus Prado. I don't know. I didn't write his first name. So, how the hell is Charles Radtke 36 years old with only 16 pro fights? Like, what has this guy been doing the whole time? But anyways, I'm just going to say it. I'm going Radtke via decision. It could be KO, but since the guy he's fighting is so young, I'm gonna have to say decision, right? He's still got that durability when he's younger. Chin hasn't been cracked. I don't think the guy's ever been knocked out, ever, that he's fighting. Prado there. However, the reason why Charles Radtke is a lock is because Prado, since joining the UFC, has gone either 1-4 with wins and losses, or 0-4. And I just simply can't pick against that, especially when Charles Radtke's not even that bad. However, I'm going to keep doing this the whole video where I'll say something and then present like a counter argument, or like devil's advocate. But I'm just doing that just to be fair, you know. It's not because I'm like fence sitting or don't have my mind made up. I'm just simply providing 2 perspectives, opposite perspectives. So yeah, Prado's only 23, and I think his chin's going to hold up fine, but this guaranteed will be a scrap. Next up, we got Kelvin Gastelum versus Vincent Luque. Is that his name? Vicente Luque. I don't have too much to say about this one, again, just simply because who cares about this fight? Except for I'm picking El Gordito Kelvin Gastelum. Because Luque in his last fight looked like a heavy bag. He just wasn't doing shit. Which, this is a total freaking tangent, by the way. This is so beside the point. But who did he fight in that fight of Luque? Yoel Alvarez. Okay, bro, Yoel Alvarez, 23 pro wins, and he's finished them all. So I put like a bet, like a decent sized bet, over to him to win by KO or submission, because that's all he has on his record. And then Luque is obviously on a downtrend right now, so with like 2 finishes in his last 5 fights, and I just assume the trend's gonna keep going that way. So I put him by finish, and within his first 23 pro wins, he finally got his first decision win. And that's when I bet on him by finish. Yeah. That's not the first time that happened to me. Actually, no, that was the first time that happened to me, but it certainly wasn't the last. That turkey's been too scared to show his face ever since. I don't think he's fought since. But anyway, yeah, I think Gastelum is just going to be standing outside of boxing range, throwing overhands at Luque's head once every minute, and just simply outpointing him that way. I think it's a decision win, because if Luque was able to go all 15 minutes with Alvarez, he'll be able to go all 15 with Gastelum, who's not the most high output, decent amount of power. And you know, he looked good in that Joe Pyfer fight. Not good, but certainly not bad. Far from bad, actually. He looked far from bad. Man, I should have propped my laptop up. It's like pointing at my double chin right now, fam. Kelvin Gastelum decision. And I honestly think, not decision, but Kelvin Gastelum is a lock, which I'll give my bet at the end of the video, of course. Kevin Holland, next fight, Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. Kevin Holland is 2 years younger than Randy Brown. Isn't that funny? I guess Randy Brown has been in the UFC for a while, but... Well, so is Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's been in there for, like, long... I don't know, since 2019, I think. Maybe longer. And so it's just weird to see Randy Brown 2 years older. Something about that is surprising to me. I'm going to be picking against Kevin Holland. I'm going to be picking Randy Brown. Even though I think skill for skill, Kevin Holland is better than Randy Brown and should be able to beat him. I just simply am... Like, I made an oath to myself to never pick Kevin Holland again after that Daniel Rodriguez performance. Which I don't think anyone is going to blame me for that. However... I'm picking Daniel Rodriguez, I'm picking Kevin Holland. However, huge caveat, or like asterisk rather, because you look at Kevin Holland's record, and for the past couple years, it's been win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, and right now, Kevin Holland is lose. If you play Baccarat, you should understand how these types of things work, right? I'm talking about Baccarat, the casino game. It's really bothering that my camera's showing off my double chin, but it's fine. In Baccarat, the game's simple. You just simply pick red or blue. And, of course, there's a table showing what the history is, just like in roulette or something. And if you were to look at that, take that same philosophy of reading that table, understand what the shoe is doing, and you apply that to this fight, it'll tell you that Kevin Holland is the pick right now. Lose, win, player, banker, player, banker, win, lose. Man, you guys are seeing what I'm saying? So, not confident in this pick at all. And you know what? Just thinking about this fight, I was thinking, like, man, I think Kevin Holland is like bipolar or something, which is like not a crazy thing to say at all, because I think like it's just the way he acts, where he goes on these like sprees of fighting, right? Like he'll go multiple fights in a row with all in a couple months, regardless of win or lose or who the opponent is, and then like within the like same spree, he looks like a different guy in the cage a lot of the time, fight to fight, probably because maybe he took the fight on a high and now he's fighting on a low or something. And then of course, you know, he's taking that spree of fights when he's on the high, and then, you know, taking the time off when he's on a low. And he just totally seems like the type of guy to like, I don't know, just suits his personality, like being bipolar. I actually think this is a real thing. So, with that said, if Kevin Holland is on a high right now, I think this is going to be an absolute dogfight, and he's going to knock out Randy Brown, like, within the first round. And if he's on a low, it's going to be a pretty boring fight with Kevin Holland just simply getting outpointed, which it'll be a decently boring fight. So, final pick, Randy Brown, decision. Next fight, we have Gamrot versus Ribovics. How do you get slapped around by Dan Hooker for 15 minutes? Honestly, he's been dropped so much recently in his last couple fights, but that's fine. But that doesn't give me confidence, though, in Gamrot. Excuse me. I think there's a huge chance for upset in this fight because of that. Granted, I don't think, like, Ribovics, yeah, he's a striker dude for sure, but he doesn't have that one knockout power, and I don't think Gamrot's ever been finished by knockout, so I don't think that there's an opportunity for a big KO upset here. You'll notice this trend with, like, just like how I've been looking at UFC lately, where new untested fighters have been sliming the old veterans of the sport, right? This is an absolute trend going on right now. There's been a couple of exceptions. I have them listed here. We got King Green, in his, what was it, Bahamunda's fight. Sean Strickland and Fluffy, and Gaethje Pimblett. Those are the exceptions. But other than that, we have Joe Pyfer with not much of a resume beating Israel Adesanya. Kevin Vallejos being the first guy to knock out Emmett, right? Or was Topuria? No, Topuria subbed him, right? Lonnie Kavanaugh versus Brendan Moreno. Uros Medic versus Jeff Neal. Mikael Costa being the first guy to knock out Dan Ige. And then Salsa Boy, Waldo Cortez Acosta, Slime being Derek Lewis. I say all that just to pick Gamrot, but it's so funny because when I was looking at this fight, and I'm going to say this again about another fight, but when I was looking at this fight, I was thinking, okay, why is Gamrot not the obvious pick here? Like, I'm looking for a reason to not pick the obvious choice, and I couldn't really find it, to be honest. Skill for skill, he's way better. Ribovics got taken down like a dozen times in that one fight. That fight was like 3 years ago, but I don't care because at least in the octagon we haven't seen any wrestling, I think, at all. Actually, maybe like one or two trips in one of his fights actually, but aside from that, we haven't seen much wrestling from Ribovics still within the last 2-3 years. So I don't know how much he's improved, and I'm not gonna rely on his takedown defense or his get up getting better, even though I have no proof about it. I'm not gonna do that. And then also I think Gamrot, he's like pretty badass dude. He's gonna come back with a vengeance after that Charles Oliveira loss, and he's gonna prove why he's one of the best guys. And I just realized I totally did not make my point about, okay, whatever. Anyways, back to what I was saying about the age thing and untested fighters being veterans of the sport. I think this will be an exception. Gamrot is actually really old. He's like 9 years older, not really old for the sport, old for the weight class. He's 9 years older than Ribovics. I believe Ribovics is 26 and Gamrot is 35, I believe. Gamrot's just simply too good to get slimed by Ribovics, and like I said, Ribovics is not what that doesn't, like, he has a lot of knockouts, like half his fights are knockout wins, but he doesn't have that slamming power, and you're certainly not going to do that to a Gamrot. I'm kind of repeating myself with that, but listen, I promise this fight is going the distance. I don't know what the odds are on that, but that would be certainly like a good one little bet. Yeah, Ribovics is a fun striker and he's durable. However, it's just like, put it this way. This is the best way to sum up what I'm trying to say of why I'm picking Gamrot, is because the path to victory is so clear for Gamrot. And in my pickings, which I don't upload to YouTube, but like I still go on Tapology and will pick fights often, or even just in my head, is I'll look at these fights and I'll be like, okay, there's a clear path to victory. If the fighter takes it, he's guaranteed to win the fight. A good example of this is Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway. I low-key wish I made a video on that because I predicted it fucking to the T, man. After all, Gamrot seems like the type of guy to know what he has to do, which is what I'm saying. There's an obvious path to victory, but not only is that the case, but also Gamrot knows what he has to do, and he knows to take that path, and he's gonna be able to execute on it. Yeah, back to what I was saying. I'm all over the place for this fight, but back to what I was saying about Buddy Ribovics getting taken down a dozen times in that one fight. Even if he is improved, bro, Gamrot is way better. Like that guy that Ribovics got taken down by a bunch is not even a fraction as good of a wrestler as Gamrot is. So pretty obvious pick here. Gamrot by decision. Next fight, Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. I don't care for this fight. I was honestly not even gonna cover this. And I actually don't want to talk about it, so I'm going to keep it short. But I am picking Aaron Pico by probably round 1 KO. I'm not sure what round, but definitely, yeah, probably round 1, if not round 2. But certainly not round 3. I want him to win. I think his striking is, and just fight style in general, is pretty entertaining. And he's a young guy who has room to grow. And he has a cool, aggressive fight style. And he totally can maul, what's his name? Patricio Pitbull, the way he did to a lot of the Bellator bums that Aaron Pico fought. But I think it'd be cool if he won because I think Aaron Pico's style, his fight style, would fit right in with the guys at 145, all these new contenders, with his aggressive brawling style, right? And to be honest, I think it's possible for Aaron Pico to climb the rankings of 145 and get maybe even top 10. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I think he's pretty well-rounded too, man. I watched his fights going up to the Lerone Murphy fight, and I was like, yo, his wrestling's not bad. Yeah, not bad against Bellator bums. So that doesn't mean too much to me. Bro, Pitbull is also, he's 40 years old at featherweight. That's crazy. Probably the oldest featherweight ever, right? At least in modern UFC. So yeah, Aaron Pico, round 1, KO. Next. Oh yeah, I have the bout order wrong written down. Fuck, that's really embarrassing. That's okay. So I believe the next fight on the card is actually going to be Blaydes versus Hokit, which I am so high on Hokit, and I'm glad that they're rushing this dude. I wish they'd do this more often with the UFC to avoid things getting stale, which it has been for like the last 8 months or so. Maybe, yeah, like 8 months. Listen, similar to the Gamrot fight, Josh Hokit has a clear path to victory in this fight with the knockout. Curtis Blaydes has been knocked out like 5 times in his UFC fight to Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich, Francis Ngannou, Derek Lewis, and I think that's it. And it's like, I think that Hokit will be one of these guys to do it too, but then I've seen people argue where it's like, no, these guys are all the best heavyweight fighters of all time. But it's like, yo, what did I say about the Gamrot and Ribovics fight, man? 2026 is the year of untested fighters beating these old veterans, man. Like, UFC, or MMA in general, is the sport of the young perpetually eating the old, and this will be no exception. And Tom Aspinall is another one I forgot to mention, which, how are you losing to Tom Aspinall? I understand that he's champion, massive air quotes around that, but it's like, bro, Tom Aspinall is the definition of one-dimensional. Like, I don't know, man. And if you're losing to someone one-dimensional, imagine what somebody who is three-dimensional with the wrestling that Josh Hokit has. Like, I'm saying this in the event that Josh Hokit doesn't come out there and just blitz Blaydes and puts him out within the first 1, 2, 3 exchanges. I'm saying that he can go rely on that wrestling too. And don't tell me that, yo, yeah, Josh Hokit looks like a good wrestler against some random guy in Contender Series and against whatever that guy's name was. I can't remember. I don't even think I wrote it down. But it's like, bro, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, because skill for skill, eye test. If you're using what you can actually perceive with, and you're using your eyes and looking at Josh Hokit's wrestling, it looks really good. Like, he knows what he's doing, even if it is against whatever that fucking guy's name, I can't remember. Blaydes has only ever been knocked out, only has knockout losses. Josh Hokit has a lot of knockouts. Simple. Just like, it's like, simply like, do the math, man. And like I said, the young perpetually eat the old, and Blaydes is just so stiff and not fluid, unlike Josh Hokit. Josh Hokit looked like the definition of fluid in his last fight. Now, for our featured fight, we got Murzakanov. No, it's Johnny Walker versus Dominick Reyes is our featured fight. Yeah, we got Jiří's son versus Carlos Ulberg's son fighting each other here. 2 glass cannons, but it's like, this is a competition of who has the bigger cannon. Pause. I think Johnny Walker, and that's like, that can be proven statistically. I believe he's been knocked out less and has more knockouts than Dominick Reyes. Walker showed in his last fight that he has game planning and fight IQ to take the path of least resistance with how he wrestled Zhang and got that round 1 finish. And also, bro, is Walker as washed as we think? He only has 2 losses since the beginning of 2023. Excuse me. And one of which was against a future champion, and who will probably become champion again. That loss to Magomed is not that bad at all. And also, it's like, how are you going to count on Dominick Reyes to slime Johnny Walker when not even Zhang Ming Yang can do it? Now, obviously, like, who's better? Skill for skill, who's better? Zhang Ming Yang or fucking Dominick Reyes? Honestly. I actually don't know. I'm trying to think in my head. To be honest, I don't know. It might be Dominick Reyes, low-key, but not by much. So it's like, if Johnny Walker's able to beat Zhang Ming Yang, who was supposed to, like, Johnny Walker was supposed to be lamb to the slaughter in that fight, and he beat him, why do you think that Dominick Reyes is going to do it to Johnny Walker? Because what? Because he beat John Jones? That's horseshit. And also, like I was saying about Johnny Walker only having 2 losses in the last 3 years, one of which against a really good opponent, which is no sweat off anyone's back for him losing. Unlike that, Dominick Reyes has been falling off. He had his little run, which were like, did he get rocked as hell in that Dustin Jacoby fight? Granted, Jacoby's not bad, but he got rocked as hell by Jacoby. Anthony Smith was a layup of a fight for Dominick Reyes. And Nikita Krylov, the minor. Yeah, Krylov knew that fucking Reyes' chin is cooked and he sucks, so he just tried rushing him and just got caught rushing him. That was like more Nikita Krylov's fight than, more Nikita Krylov's fault that he got knocked out than it is freaking Dominick Reyes. This is the last thing I'm going to say about this fight. Dominick Reyes. God bless the guy, but it's like, he's such a loser vibe to him. He seems like he just always feels sorry for himself, right? Like, maybe he thought he was on a comeback after he... What the fuck am I even reading, bro? I don't know. Do you agree? I don't know why I'm asking you. That's so true. Like, Dominick Reyes just has that loser vibe to him where he just feels like he's kind of just, like, pathetic, man. Like, I don't know if it's like the Jones loss or just who he is, but it's like he's going to be carrying that baggage into this fight. Meanwhile, Johnny Walker carries no baggage of any of his losses. Like, Dominick Reyes thinks too much. Johnny Walker doesn't think at all, and that's why he's going to win. Final pick, Reyes, or Freudian slip? Final pick, Johnny Walker, round 1, KO. Betting opportunity there. Just to do round 1 though, not KO, but just round 1. Johnny Walker round 1. So my recording stopped or whatever, so I went, ate food, did a bunch of stuff, and I'm back now. But anyways, we have our co-main event to talk about now. So I remember when Murzakanov was set to fight Rakic on the Tom Aspinall card there back at the end of 2025, and I didn't know who the guy was, but I was like kind of like surprised I didn't know who he was, or confused of why I didn't know who he was. And then I went and I look at his Tapology, and it's like, okay, he fought on fight night, then pay-per-view, and then the pay-per-view he fought on was like on the prelims or the early prelims, and I didn't watch the prelims of that fight because I was working simply. And then also somewhere in between there, he had a year-long layoff due to positive testing. So it actually makes sense why I didn't know who this guy was. I was going to say don't, but I do now. So needless to say, I'm not too familiar with Azamat, but he seems like the obvious choice here. I feel like this is the third time I'm saying this now in this video, but yeah, he seemed like the obvious choice here. And same with the Gamrot fight. I went into this looking for a reason of why should I not pick him? And this is what I came up with. So Paulo Costa is moving up a weight class, which, first of all, he's going to be looking huge in the cage. But second of all, I think when fighters move up, they gain some durability within their chin. Sometimes, not all the time, they get a little bit of better cardio, right? Because they might have a little bit more fluff on them, or just mass in general to go around, because they're not fighting so drained. So the thing about moving up a weight class and Paulo Costa possibly having a more durable chin is that he was already a durable dude to begin with. He has only ever been knocked out once in his pro career, and that was against Israel Adesanya, who is like the second greatest middleweight of all time. But also, it was far from a clean knockout. And so Paulo Costa being durable to begin with, and then now moving up a weight class, which, like I said, you get a better chin. I think that's a point, clearly. I don't even have to say that's a point for Paulo Costa, right? To win this fight, or at least stand a chance against Azamat. Because, like I said, everyone's picking Azamat. I'm sure he's a huge favorite on Tapology. Saying all of that makes me think, okay, what happens? Because all that makes me think that since Azamat is kind of a power merchant in the sense where that's all he has to offer is a bunch of power. Now, granted, he's better than a lot of power merchants in the UFC, but it's still true that he's kind of one-dimensional, right? And he's just going to keep throwing that overhand into Paulo Costa's fucking mush, and Paulo Costa is going to eat it. What happens if he eats it? What happens if Paulo Costa is going to be able to eat it? Because he has, like I said, better chin, and that's all Azamat has to offer, really. Seriously, like, what happens? Paulo Costa probably survives all 15 minutes rounds, and then what, is going to be able to outpoint him? Maybe. So I'm calling Azamat one-dimensional, but the thing is, so is Paulo Costa. His fighting style is like stuck in 2019. However, like I said, Paulo Costa's moving up a weight class, and typically when fighters move up a weight class, you can observe another thing where they're looking a bit faster and sharper than all the fighters. However, since I think Paulo Costa's fighting style stuck in 2019, I don't think that we're going to see the Letterman skill translate, because I do think that is a real thing. Man, it's like, yeah, like I said, like, I'm coming at this from a perspective of how can Paulo Costa win, and that's because he's like my favorite fighter, honestly. He was one of the people that got me into UFC when I was still a casual, right? I still think to this day, him versus Yoel Romero is one of the most entertaining fights in UFC. And then also, that moment where he was fighting with Luke Rockhold, and it was at the end of the 3 or 5 rounds, and Paulo Costa was in top mount, and he was like spitting all his blood, spit, and sweat into fucking Luke Rockhold's face, and was rubbing it in like that. That was one of the moments that made me fall in love with the sport, and is why I'm now doing this channel here today, making this very video even. But even back then, though, during those fights, and even the fight with Izzy, it never felt like Paulo Costa took his career serious, and that still holds true today. However, in spite of this, Paulo Costa did look pretty good in his last fight. And then another thing to mention, Murzakanov knocked out Rakic with a stiff jab, and Paulo Costa is gonna get his got his face jabbed off by Strickland. So maybe, honestly, I don't know why I wrote that down. I can't remember what my point was. But that does make me think, though, is look how much Paulo Costa respected Strickland. And also Izzy, too, now that I think about it. And that makes me think that this is going to happen for a third time. But listen, final pick, going to be Azamat Murzakanov by very, like third round stoppage. It's not going to be a knockout. It's going to be a stoppage specifically. And even a doctor stoppage even. Because like I said, I actually think Paulo Costa's chin is going to be able to hold up. And he won't get a knockout. However, his mush is just going to be absolutely destroyed and bloodied to the point where the ref's either just going to call it, or the doctor's going to have to step in and call it for him. However, don't be surprised if Azamat's one-dimensional fucking striking doesn't work, and Paulo Costa is able to kind of just slightly outpoint him all 3 rounds. I think that's a huge possibility too. But I don't think it's enough of a possibility for me to pick Costa because of that. Alright, and finally, our main event of the evening, Jiří Procházka versus Carlos Ulberg. I feel like if you're predicting or trying to pick this fight, you're going to fall into either one of 2 camps. And that's Jiří's going to do his thing in autism all over Ulberg and eventually get the knockout. Or Carlos Ulberg is going to outpoint, out-technique, and out-skill Jiří until he gets that knockout in the 3rd or 4th round. And I think that's pretty true. That's a super fair way to look at this fight. However, when has that ever happened to Jiří? He's fought at least 3 technique, or sorry, I guess I should word that differently. He's won against 3 technical fighters, right? Glover Teixeira, Jamal Hill, and Khalil Roundtree. And all those guys lost to Jiří. And in fact, not only did they get lost, they got slimed. Because, by the way, this fight is guaranteed to not go distant. And I think this is on purpose of why Jiří beats these guys, is because he sort of carved out a niche for himself, where he's like, okay, I'm gonna make a game that's so unorthodox and so unconventional that it's actually gonna be antithetical to these guys with technique. And it works because Jiří has mastered the art of zigging when the other guy is going to zag, right? And that's why I'm picking Jiří by round 2 KO. No, that's a lot. Round 3 KO. He looked too bad against Khalil. Which, speaking of that, what the hell was that, Jiří? That makes me very worried because, as we know, you're only as good as your last fight. And so that makes me scared of why Jiří was looking like he had no equilibrium, looking like he was on roller skates, no flow. That KO looked fake, right? That KO looked fake. It looked like, what's his face? Khalil Roundtree just gave up. But I'm gonna just not take that into account and just hope for it was an off night, because that's true. There are such things as off nights in UFC. On that same card, Alex Pereira showed us that he had an off night against the first fight with Magomed Ankalaev. Okay, and then here's another reason why Jiří's gonna beat Ulberg. I hate this reason. I hate comparing resumes, but I feel like it has to be said, right? I hate comparing resumes. I don't think it means much, but I was actually considering not even bringing this up. But who has Ulberg beat? The disparity in Jiří's resume versus Ulberg's resume is why I need to bring this up, because the disparity there is so big that I have to bring it up, even though I don't like comparing resumes. So his best wins are Ulberg, that is. His best wins are Dominick Reyes, sucks, always has, and Jan Blachowicz, who I don't think is bad, but he's just an old man, and he was an old man at the time of Ulberg fighting him, and even then it wasn't that emphatic of a performance at all. But like I said kind of multiple times throughout this video, I don't think resumes matter that much. You can't compare resumes when you're trying to pick a fight. Yeah, Jiří round 3 KO. That's what I wrote down. I don't think this is a lock. The odds actually reflect the probability of this fight. Okay, when I wrote this, they did. Jiří was 1.8 favorite. That makes sense, but now it's pick'em. No, Jiří's gonna no. I feel this is 60 to 65% chance of Jiří winning. The odds don't reflect that. That means that there's a disparity in what I think versus the odds. I'm low-key gonna bet on this. I even wrote in the Google Doc that I think Jiří's gonna get bet down to a bigger favorite. Looks like the opposite's true. But anyways, I'm glad. I hope you guys enjoy this picks video. I hope I did too much stuttering. I know I did, but whatever. It's my second picks video. I need to stop being so hard on myself in general. Where it's my best video is not going to be the first one. My best picks video isn't going to be my second one. But if you can endure me stuttering and doing so much uhs and ums, I do have some shit to talk in this video, which is why I'm making the picks video. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I feel like I want to say something, but I can't remember it. Maybe it was video dropping tomorrow or Friday, whenever it drops. I think that's what I was going to say. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Peace.